Christchurch will never be the same again, and this time it's nothing to do with the buildings. The city's undergoing what's potentially the biggest population change our country's seen in recent history. With the rebuild, thousands of people from not just New Zealand but all over the world are on their way in. But are they welcome? Alexi O'Brien takes a look.
It's very obvious that there's not enough tradespeople in Christchurch or New Zealand to tend to the build.
If you don't have the skills, then we simply can't get the job done.
It's going to be one of the major changes that's going to occur in New Zealand over the next decade.
There's no denying it's a big job.
We've got hundreds of thousands of houses to fix. We have a CBD that needs entirely rebuilding.
The earthquakes have forever altered the physical face of the city. Now the rebuild will change the faces of those who live here.
The demand for labour is going to be huge, and the local supply is not going to be adequate to meet that demand.
Predictions vary wildly, but it's expected that around 23,000 extra construction-related workers will be needed. Some of those will come through training programs over the next few years, but in the short term, recruiters like Matt Jones are looking overseas.
We recruit heavily out of the local market. But as these projects start taking off, the senior staff are required, management staff. A lot of people have left Christchurch. A lot of people don't want to come to Christchurch from within New Zealand.
He's spent almost 4 of the past 12 months in the UK and Ireland, getting more than 100 workers on board.
Their economies up there are very poor. The construction industries are in depression up there. Their qualifications, their work ethic is very similar to New Zealanders.
OK, we put the 3 of them up there. I was thinking about putting number 1, number 2 and then number 3.
Gary McEntee says the boom here is similar to that he experienced in Ireland, where he'd owned his own company.
Ireland had what was known as the Celtic Tiger. I employed people from New Zealand, people from Australia, people from China, Lithuania, Poland and Russia. So Ireland couldn't have done the Celtic Tiger without having workers from abroad.
An influx of mainly male migrants will bring its own problems, such as learning to relate to a changing workforce.
It's not just that the migrant has to become a New Zealander and, act out all the New Zealand ways of working. It's a give-and-take situation.
And Auckland sociologist Paul Spoonley believes much of the rebuild's success depends on how the migrants are welcomed by Cantabrians.
And it could become a much more multicultural city.
Christchurch has always been the English Rose of New Zealand. Green parks, beautiful buildings, colonial, conservative.
Unfortunately, Christchurch is also the home to the most significant of our racist groups in New Zealand. They attack people who are different, people who are Asian in particular.
They used to call me, "Oh, you carry mancho, why don't you go to your own country?"
If people want to be racist, that's their choice to do so.
There has been a lot more instances of racism that I have encountered here in Christchurch.
The demographics of the city are going to change. There's going to be a lot of very different faces around the city and get them prepared for that. Because we didn't really do that in Auckland, and I think Christchurch can learn from that.
Auckland's now one of the most diverse cities in the world. The boom of migrants over the past 2 decades or so mean the city's streets teem with multiculturalism.
We've got newcomers events and events being done to help that and help these people settle, because we want them to stick. We want them to stay here. We don't want them going home because they're unhappy or they're not fitting in.
Tas Mukurumbindo knows about wanting to fit in.
I had a bit of a culture shock. A few weeks after arriving, I thought I must be the only African here.
Arriving from Zimbabwe almost 10 years ago, he now runs a business mentoring migrants wanting employment and helping with networking.
Hello, Gidari.
Hi, brother, how are you?
Very well, very well.
It was tough at the time, but I think in hindsight, I've learned a lot.
He says migrants will not just be vital for the physical rebuild of the city, but also its emotional and cultural prosperity, and wants an ethnic precinct to get the green light.
It would then have a market, ethnic retailing for all kinds of clothes, shoes, bags.
Now, one of the things that I think has been fantastic about Christchurch is that the immigrant communities made a real contribution in the immediate aftershock of the earthquake. So I think there's a different perception now about those immigrants than there was perhaps even 2 years ago pre-earthquake.
We came to support our brothers in this part of the world.
Now most people on the street seem excited about the prospect of change.
Bringing people in will help the economic system.
Yeah, New Zealand's built on migration. That's how we all got here, a lot of us.
I just hate to see the country full of other people, really, migrants. It's our quiet little country.
It's got to change. If it wants to grow, if it wants to rebuild, it's got to overcome the conservativeness.
We're going to have access to a whole range of cultures that possibly we didn't have much access to before. It's going to enrich and give new dimensions to life in Canterbury.
Just ahead, Earth from an out-of-this-world perspective, the astronaut who says this planet must try harder.
If we're not slowing our rate, then really we're going to use up all of Earth's resources sooner than we'd like.
It's hot in Samoa. And Te Radar's getting closer to the heat than ever before.
I smell good enough to eat.
Just don't let the locals know.
Have we got the pot ready?
Good work, Samoa.
Te Radar across the Pacific. Next, TV1.